The Historic New Orleans collection was proud to loan several objects to the Black Masking Indians of New Orleans exhibit at quai Branly. That is something that we routinely do, is to share our collection with other institutions that are seeking to share and interpret the history of New Orleans.
I'm very proud to have our materials from our collection on display at Musée, quai Branly, Jacques Chirac, and to be part of this exhibition. I think it's just a great example of the opportunities that lending brings to our institution. There's a lot of context that needs to be given to understand the culture and the history in which Mardi Gras Indians operate here in New Orleans, in which they do their thing, and our collections were able to help tell that story. The Historic New Orleans collection is a museum. We steward the history and culture of New Orleans and the Gulf South. We make our vast collections of materials relating to those subjects available to the public for research through our research center, through our publications division, and through dynamic programs and exhibitions in our museum.
New Orleans is a place that everyone in the world has heard about, and that probably most people in the world want to visit at some point. So that's not always possible for everyone. And so we do our part here at the Historic New Orleans collection to help support the work that is done around the world to share our culture and to share our history with people.
We very happily make materials in our collections available to other museums and institutions for the purpose of using them in their exhibitions and public programming. I would say basically at any given time, there's probably something from our collection that's on display in some other museum somewhere in the world. We are very honored to be requested by very well-known and prominent museums to use materials from our collection in very interesting and engaging and special exhibitions. And so we get a lot of joy, I would say, as an institution out of the opportunities to share our collections with the world, not through our own interpretive program, but rather through the interpretive lens brought to the collections by others from all sorts of different types of museums. So sometimes it might be that an art museum is borrowing something from us, we being a history museum. Or sometimes it's a matter of a museum in another place entirely, on the other side of the ocean, bringing our collections to audiences that are very far away and maybe little familiar with the history and culture of New Orleans. When we lend materials from our collection to another museum, we'll monitor the condition of the objects throughout the process. We'll be there to assist with the mounting of the object on the wall or in the case or however it will be displayed. And then when it's time for the object to come home, a similar process takes place so that its condition is documented before it's shipped out from the lending institution, and then we document it again back at its home location. Throughout the process, that type of careful attention is given to every loan in an effort to ensure that its condition isn't degraded through the process. You know, everything we do to make collections available and accessible is in a way counter to our mission to preserve those materials in perpetuity. You know, there's an intrinsic paradox in what we do there between access and preservation. There is no point to preservation without access, according to our vision of our work and our mission. We seek simply to do everything we can to mitigate any possible damage, and I think we do a pretty good job.
It was a wonderful exhibit and experience. I traveled to Paris for the opening weekend, and so my visit there coincided also with the opening reception, and we also had members of the community whose art and work is reflected in the exhibit present there with us also that week. Quai Branly did an excellent job of showcasing the suits, but they also did fantastic work in providing important historic context for the Black Masking Indian tradition that really shared with the world how this tradition came to be and why it's been so important for the communities to sustain it over the years.